Thank you, Councilman. So at this time, our next change in our agenda was to move forward Mr. Tracy Huggins Barnes for a presentation in reference to state of finances for the city. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. At this time, we will ask that Mr. Huggins please come forward. Mr. Huggins, you can actually come to the side.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Tracy Huggins. I'm with Birch Oxford Hill CPA. We've been doing your audit for a few years now. I've kind of lost count, but I'm here to present your June 30th, 2023 audit results. And just give you a few highlights. So the audit is 194 pages. I hope you've had a chance to look through it and have any questions answered of the financial statements, but just some highlights of a couple of big areas in the audit. Well, one, before I get started, on page 20 is our opinion, an unmodified opinion, what most people call a clean opinion of the financial statements. So page 42, if you do have a copy of it, is the general fund. This year's budgeted revenues were $37,887,000. The actual revenues were $39,835,000. So the actual was above the budget by $1,948,000. The budgeted expenditures in the general fund were $47,417,000, while the actual was $49,073,000. Actual above budget of $1,655,000. So the operating deficiency that was budgeted in the general fund was $9,530,000, while the actual was $9,238,000. So actual was less deficiency than budget by $292,000, and that's the general fund. And the majority of the general fund, I say the majority, 55% of the general fund revenues come from property tax credits, business license, franchise fees. The unassigned fund balance in the general fund was $21,235,000, an actual increase of $9,095,000 from the prior year. And then unassigned, the general fund balance represents 43% of general fund expenditures for the year. The other larger area of financial statements would be the enterprise funds. That would be your water and sewer and the stormwater utility. The operating revenues for it this past year were $44,373,000. Operating expenses $32,839,000. The net non-operating expenses were $16,502,000. Your capital contributions $2,811,000. You did have transfers out of $5,346,000, leaving a net loss in the enterprise fund of $7,504,000 for June 30, 2023. Any questions on the numbers? I noticed lots of numbers in finance. I will comment if you do have a chance to look through the audit, and even a general citizen look through the audit. Up at the front, there's a lot of good detail and about the city in words, not just numbers. So it's 194 pages, but probably the first 33 give a lot of detail for just the general public of how the financials work.
So this information was presented as information. We do have a motion. Do y'all want to vote to receive this as information?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have that motion to receive this as information. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Information has been received. At this time, we will move forward with our agenda as outlined, which will take us back to the first portion of our ordinance position. The first ordinance is Bill number 2024-01 for a second reading. It's an ordinance to annex and zone neighborhood conservation 15 NC 15 233 North Lakewood Drive, Florence County, tax map parcel number 9008-01-003. Do we have a motion? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Let it reflect the bill has passed, and we'll give our Montessori students a moment to leave. Thank y'all for being here today. So at this time, we have Bill number 2024-02 for a second reading. It's an ordinance to convey a portion of West Vista Street right-of-way to South Carolina Department of Transportation, specifically 50 feet west from the intersection of West Vista Street and North Irby Street. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that the bill has passed second reading. Next, we'll move forward. Introduction of ordinance. First, we have Bill number 2023-42 for first reading. It's an ordinance to rezone 1110 Oakland Avenue from NC-6.1 to NC 6.3, identified as Florence County Tax Map number 90114-08-004. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. At this time, we will receive information from Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Just to kind of recap, this is a rezoning request that has been deferred to this month's meeting agenda. They are requesting a rezoning from NC-6.1 to 6.3. The property is located at 1110 Oakland Avenue. Kind of zoom in here. It backs up just to the Housing Authority property there to the east. As you can see, the Housing Authority property is zoned NC 6.3. The neighboring properties to the north and south are zoned NC 6.1, and then we have some commercial reuse, activity center, and campus rezoning in the vicinity as well. The property is approximately 50 feet by 250 feet in depth. Again, this is a rezoning request to construct townhome units on the property. Currently in the NC 6.1, only single-family residential is allowed. NC 6.3 would open that up and allow for the townhomes to be constructed. We have, again, this is a deferred matter. The applicant has not provided any additional information.
Okay.
And this concludes staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. And I just want to be clear, the properties adjacent to this property are single-family homes. Mr. Moore?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
yes, ma'am.
So those are single-family homes. It's also to my understanding that there was a public hearing in which they were not in support of the structural addition. I think one of the residents' father lived next to that property.
Yes, there was certainly mixed opinions regarding the construction of the townhomes.
Okay. But the neighbor, the father was not in favor the home was going to be built next to other homes, was what the report we got. I think the councilmen were present there, but that's my understanding. And so at this time, do we have any discussion? Chair recognizes Councilman Jabali. You know.
Clint, thank you for that. Would you pull that illustration back up again that shows the different zoning districts? Yes, thank you. I was hoping that we could have gotten some clarity from the developer, and that was the reason for the deferral from last month to this month on the impact. The concerns are still, my concerns are still the same, that it has a feel and a look of spot zoning. When you look at changing the zoning designation right in the middle of that from single family to change that on one parcel, I think it's the risk is that you would then have the adjacent property owners try to then follow suit, and you would have this lack of continuity that we currently see that would then be destroyed on a very important corridor of Oakland Avenue. Without having gotten any clarity from the developer at this point in time, I'm going to just state my concerns remain the same, and that I feel like it is not in the best interest of the city of Florence, certainly not in the best interest of those properties along the Oakland Avenue corridor to engage in spot zoning, which is what, and I'm not saying it is, but that's certainly what it feels like to me, and those are my concerns, and I'll be voting against it.
Chair recognizes Councilman McCall.
And very briefly, I would just kind of reiterate some of the sentiments that Councilman Jabali, Mayor Pro Tem Jabali has indicated. I did wish that there was a further discussion between the developers and the community. However, I'm still going to support it because they did come down one time. And again, I think that there's a bigger concern outside of this neighborhood of that every time a project comes along on this side of town, it met with a lot of resistance. So I'm still going to support it, but I do recognize your sentiments, and I wish that the developers were able to get a better consensus with the community, and maybe other council members would have probably changed their vote. So I definitely understand that. But just from a principle standpoint, I think I do want to make it clear that every time a developer comes in this side of town, it's always met with resistance. So I'm going to support it based on that position.
Any other? And I'll just state for me, when it comes to development, one of the purposes of community revitalization and also for the plan that we have for neighborhood conservation is to conserve the character of our traditional communities. This community is zoned for residential single family, and we cannot go back and pull any incident where I can remember that we've actually permitted condos to be built in the midst of single family homes. The reason why we have a UDO is to preserve the characters. And also for the statements that when we look at, the city has vested into District 1, 2, and also this can be repeated in 3, to conserve the characters of the home, to stimulate growth and development by being sure to build homes that families can own. And that is why you have Vista Street, which is actually located right there from Oakland Avenue, where this proposed zoning change is being proposed. Then you have your other catalytic area, which is off of Sumter Street, and that's also single family. And you have Pine Street, which is flourishing with the single family. So I believe that we are on track to accomplish what we wanted, to stabilize these communities, our historical communities. And I will agree with Councilman Jabali. I could not support something that even appears like it might be spot zoning. And in respect to the homeowners there, I don't want to take away from their properties when they own the homes right next door. So for me, I would not be supporting this based on those facts of I know the plan that the cities we have in place, but also in respect to our citizens who came forth, who explicitly said that they did not want this to change right there in their home. And I do want to honor the fact with our council that we must remember when we change a zoning of a property, we cannot hold those individuals, responsible for what they propose they're going to put there. But we can only say when you change that zoning, whatever we say on that zoning, we'll predict what can go there. So they can present pictures and everything in the world. But if they change their mind, they can change what they place in a community. And for that reason, I definitely will not be supporting this. And at this time, do we have any discussion?
Madam Mayor, just a point of
Council.
clarification. We had a neighborhood meeting. We didn't have a public hearing. Council asked that we get the public or the neighbors and the developer together. Staff did so, but it wasn't technically a public meeting.
It was a community
It
meeting,
was a community meeting.
and our staff appeared there along with some of the council.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, City Manager, for that correction. And still yet, I have no change in my thoughts. I can't support this. So at this time, hearing no other discussion, I will ask all those in favor of the zoning change, please show your hands. Okay, reflected, we have 2. Okay, all those who are opposed to the zoning change, please do the same, raise your hand.
Nay.
All right, let the record reflect that there's 5 in opposition. So this bill has not passed. So next we'll move forward with bill number 2024-03 for a first reading. It's an ordinance to amend the City of Florence Code of Ordinance, Chapter 1.7, and add a new subsection providing that a person who violates any sections of the city's Code of Ordinance with the intent to intimidate another person in whole or in part because of the actions are perceived racial, color, creed, religion, ancestry, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, physical or mental disabilities, or national origin, is guilty of the separate offense of a hate crime. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay, motions and second. At this time, we'll hear from Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As stated, this ordinance is a hate crime and intimidation ordinance, and it would create a separate offense, and if found guilty, it would be punishable by a fine of $500, not more than $500, or 30 days in jail. This would be a city ordinance. As stated earlier, South Carolina and Wyoming are the two states without a statewide hate crime ordinance. If passed, this would be a separate violation, and each offense would be a separate violation, punishable by $500, up to $500, or 30 days in jail.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Do we have any questions or comments from council?
I'd like to ask our
Chair, we have two hands, but what I would ask is that I'm going to go ahead and honor Councilman Braddock, following Councilman Braddock, Councilman Lee Smith Jackson.
I want to see if we could, if I could address the city attorney.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Ziegler, as you know, you're aware, I'm fully supportive of what the state's looking to do with the hate crimes bill in regards to law. How would this action, would it be enforceable? How does this relate to state law in this regard?
Well, at present, the state hasn't done anything, as you know, and as it has been stated. Local governments are oftentimes preempted from enacting legislation where the state has stepped in. So this is an instance where the state has not taken action, so the field has not been preempted, and local government can impose its own penalties. So it's an interesting question. If the House bill that's currently pending in the Senate, if it passes and becomes law, we'd have to do a little research to see what the status of the local enactment would be in light of the state having taken action. But at present, the state has not taken action, has not chose to legislate in this area, so it is open for local governments to legislate. And as Mr. Davis pointed out, this is by way of a enhancement, a penalty enhancement. And the reason it can't just be a straight, simple enhancement is you've got a jurisdictional limit, $500 and 30 days in jail. So basically this is a separate offense, but it's dependent, it's dependent on there being another violation of a separate ordinance. So if there's a violation of an ordinance and it can be found or proved that it's been motivated by hate, then you can add this one on there as a second offense, but it's basically a penalty enhancement.
Given, you know, given if there was no action being addressed by the state right now, if this wasn't something that was, you know, moving forward, it would be something that I would want to consider. But given what we do have and the senator's support and the local delegation, I would like to make a motion to defer and give the state an opportunity to address this during this session and then revisit it after that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Oh, so we have a motion to defer to after the Senate
If
takes up this bill. That's the motion.
Yeah, this session of the Senate this year.
Okay. Do you want to withdraw your second so you can ask your
well, I want to ask the question is, when does the Senate meet?
Okay, we have, since we've gotten this, a motion on there, so any discussion on that motion to defer to after Senate?
Yes, on the motion to defer.
Okay, all right, so,
I'm sorry.
okay, all right. So we have a motion and a second. All right, so now we'll have questions,
Yes.
discussion. So go ahead, Councilman.
So my understanding, and Brian, this goes to your point, though, my understanding is that if we defer, it's just going to defer till next month. Yeah. And I'm not sure that that will accomplish the goal, because we don't, while Senator Reckenbach's here, I don't know if he can predict that it'll be resolved within a month. So while I understand and appreciate your point on that, I have a concern that we'll be right back where we are again next month. What I would suggest is that an alternative is that if and when it does pass, then we can revisit it ourselves, and if we want to remove it, we can always, and that's my question to you as
Well,
our city
it's
attorney.
a great
Ben.
question. If the General Assembly acts and creates a hate crime law in South Carolina, the question is going to be, can you have a local enactment and a statewide enactment that cover the same issue? And without researching it, I can't answer that question at this point. But I can tell you this, if the General Assembly acting invalidates the local ordinance, then that'll happen as a matter of course. You don't
Okay.
need to withdraw it or pull it back. You can enact this, and it would be effective until there's a statewide enactment.
So can you?
Okay, hold.
That was
Councilman
fine.
Debate, have you
Yes.
completed?
No.
So,
I have one
Councilman
other thing,
Jason.
is my understanding further is that this is only first reading. And so if something happens between now and second reading, we always would have an opportunity. So I would just ask if you would want to withdraw your deferral at this time for those reasons.
Well, I can
Okay.
withdraw my,
Okay, all right. So Chair recognizes Councilman.
I can withdraw my second, being that this is the first reading.
So we withdraw on the second.
So unless you can get another second, the motion to defer will die for lack of
Okay,
a second.
so we have a motion.
Fail for lack of a second.
So we have the motion to defer. Do we have, and the second has been withdrawn for that. Do we have a second
Madam
on,
Madam Mayor, I posed the question to Councilman if he was, what he chose to do on the actual motion to defer himself, and I had not heard from him.
let me ask this question. So we have a removal of that. Right now, we don't have a second. So the question's been posed to the Councilman Braddock. Would you like to withdraw your motion to defer?
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, you're welcome to, because we're in a territory here. Please address the attorney.
Right, yeah, this is, I won't tell you my legal education, but it's not on that side.
Understood.
My concern is I don't want to create a situation that we can't enforce. I don't want to put our officers, I don't want to put our judges in a situation. Can you explain, just like our senator did, this is an enhancement, can you explain, so if someone is guilty of a crime, then it will go before the court the same way, and
Exactly.
it will be determined if it was racially motivated?
Exactly. The prosecution would have to, in addition to charging the individual with violation of city ordinance, and being able to prove that, they would also have to prove that the motivation for the violation of the city ordinance was related to intimidation for race, gender, et cetera, et cetera. So,
So it falls in line
Very much
with
so,
what
yeah.
the state is looking to do?
yeah.
Any differences, any glaring
Well,
differences?
Point of clarification, I do want to note that we have a motion with no second, so we don't have a motion on, correct?
Well, you
We've
were in
got-
discussion on the main motion. so
Right,
this could be
and
part
but
of the discussion of the
it's
main
been
motion.
posed of him whether or not he will remove his motion to defer. That would
Right.
place us back to our primary motion, but we still have
I'll
that.
remove my
So you're removing your motion. So now we're back to discussion on the primary motion, which is this particular,
Because I agree on the timing.
Okay.
I mean, it's not going to get done in a month. I just didn't want to create something kind of complicated.
yeah, so you're welcome to discuss. I was just clarifying our procedure for our manner, so you're welcome now.
So any glaring differences
No, the
between
states
what we're looking
pertains
to
to
do and what
violent
the state's
crime.
doing?
Obviously, city ordinances don't deal with violent crime. The city ordinances do deal with actions that could be taken based on that kind of animus.
So
hate.
similar to the Jackie Robinson statue being violated and torn down, vandalism to that, then in that situation, then there would be, you'd have the crime of vandalism, and then they'd have to
Right,
prove.
and that would be a state matter. The example that everyone uses for an ordinance is, say, it's a litter ordinance. If you print up a bunch of racist pamphlets and throw them out the window up and down Cherokee Road or Palmetto Street in Florence, you're violating the city's litter ordinance, but you're also engaging in a quote-unquote hate crime. So that's a good example of how that would overlap on the city's level.
Okay, thanks for the clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't want to create a situation when we had the state moving forward, that would put our officers or our court in a bad position.
Understood, thank you. Any other discussion, any other questions? Chair recognizes Councilman McCall.
Oh, and I'll be supporting it due to the just the nature of what's ahead of us now. It's also on top of discrimination on the basis of race. We're also hearing that with the war in Gaza, you're getting a lot of hate crime or hate speech and hate crime towards Jews as well. Actually, when this was on the agenda, I had a few members of the Jew community reach out to me in support of it because of some of the concerns that they have about this situation. So although it's not just a black and white issue or a colored issue, it's also members of some religious organizations who are feeling or want more protections. So hopefully the state can definitely address this, but I'll be supporting it because of those concerns that has been addressed to me by members of the community. So thank you.
And at this point, in conclusion of this discussion, if there's no other questions, I do want to acknowledge that the several member of our artists was here last month, and they came forth and asked us to actually consider this. So this is actually the response to our community coming forth and saying that we need this in place, and that's why we requested that our city staff research and bring this information to us, because our citizens have made this request, and I will wholeheartedly always support anything that's going to bring us to more of a inclusive society. So I think this is a good move for us to do this. And I also would like to state that we know that our state legislators have a heavy plate, and we don't know when this will be able to be resolved on a level, but we're looking forward to them being able to do that. But on a local level, since we have that ability to do so, I believe that we have that responsibility to our citizens to move forward to do what was requested of us. So I definitely would support this. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Please let it reflect that this bill has passed unanimous among the whole of the council. So council, thank you for supporting our citizens' request. At this time, we'll move forward into our introduction of resolution. As we've noted, we've also got now resolution number 2024-05. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion to second, and at this time, we're here from Mr. Kevin Rollinson.
Yes, ma'am. This resolution is to replace the board members, or not board members, the officers of the Public Facilities Corporation, which is not for profit that is a part of the city. It was created out of the requirements of a debt service funding mechanism called the Installment Purchase Revenue Bond, or IPRB, that the city utilizes. And while those bonds are outstanding, the corporation still has to exist. The previous members were Randy Osterman, Kevin Yoakum, and Chuck Pope, all three of which are no longer with the city. And so these are just repopulating those positions
Thank you.
with city employees.
Do we have any questions at this time? Hearing no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Thank you. And at this time, we'll take a moment as our senator and his wife is departing, and we'd like to thank y'all for being here today. Thank you for all that y'all are doing for us in Columbia. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have resolution number 20.
Now, I don't believe there was a motion and a second on that resolution. There was a vote, no motion and second.
Oh,
Oh, we already did vote. Yeah.
no, just now,
Public Facilities Corporation.
I want to say aye.
I
Yeah.
move that we.
we had a motion, we had a motion, yeah, we had a motion and second to get them up, and then I was doing that while the senator, so we did vote, we just
We
voted.
voted.
Yeah,
You said aye? Oh, aye.
yeah. You might have been distracted, because the senator was up at that time getting ready to leave out, and so while he was preparing to leave out,
Okay.
yeah, it was, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to make a joke about that, Ben. Okay, now back to our agenda here. We have resolution number 2024-07. It's a resolution and conditional grant. And a development agreement, but this particular resolution can be taken up in executive session so we can receive more information if there's no objection. So that resolution will be taken up in executive session. Okay, that completes all of our resolutions. Next, we'll have a report to council, and with that, we're here from Mr. Davis for appointments to boards and commissions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. We have two boards that either have a vacancy or expired term. Our first board is our City of Florence Design Review Board. The applicant must be a commercial or general contractor licensed in the state of South Carolina. We do have seeking reappointment Mr. Kyle Gunter. This falls to Councilwoman Neesmith Jackson.
Let's reappoint Mr. Kyle Gunner.
Okay, it is the councilwoman motion that we reappoint Mr. Kyle Gunner. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Mr. Gunter's reappointment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. Mr. Gunter has therefore been reappointed. Next.
Our next board is our Housing Authority. The member must be either a resident of the city or representing a business in the city. We have 13 applicants. This falls to Councilman Braddock.
Chair recognizes Councilman Braddock.
I'm going to nominate Larry Hill.
We have a nomination for Mr. Larry Hill. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Mr. Hill. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that Mr. Hill has been appointed. Okay. Does that complete our all right. And as council may notice, Mr. Tracy Huggin has given that report as information. We received that. Next, we have C is a request to reschedule March meeting and November 2024 regular meeting of the city council meeting. At this time, do we have a motion and a second so we can discuss? All right, we have a motion and a second. At this time, we will have discussion. I'll ask that Mr. Davis still stand, and he'll give us a reasoning, but I know that for November meeting, as your council may know, that our regular meeting will be falling on Veteran Day, and as you know, the city will not be open in honor of our veterans, so that's proposed for that. So, Mr. Davis, would you proceed to inform us of the request for changes?
Yes, Madam Mayor. As stated, there's been a request to reschedule the March and the November meeting. Our March meeting is generally on March 11th. We have a number of council members who will be traveling out of town to attend training sessions, and it's been requested that we move that meeting to March 18th. As stated previously, our November meeting is on Veterans Day. That is a day that the city is closed, and staff would request that meeting be moved to November 18th.
Council, you've heard the request and report. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Let it reflect that the change of dates as requested for March will be March 18th, and for November, it will be November 18th, the year of 2024. And it has passed. So next, that concludes our portion of our reports to council. Next, we're into our reports, and on our mayor's report, I simply want to state that you've heard from all the various awards and so forth that the city has received, and I do want to acknowledge that, as you know, our former city manager has retired from us, and I do want to recognize our interim city manager, Mr. Davis. Please stand so everyone would know your face and know who to call now. And welcome aboard, Mr. Davis. And I do want to compliment the fact that we just had a budget retreat, and Mr. Davis actually led that retreat, and it worked out really well for the communication for the council and also for our staff. So I would want to say we commend you, and we're looking forward to your serving the citizens of Florence. And then as a holistic report, I still want to encourage our citizens to please go to cityoflorence.com, get familiar with the site, but also utilize our other social medias. That is the way we can communicate with you, but also you can communicate with us as well. And I will conclude my report with that, and also at this time proceed to have our reports for our chairs for our committees who are very active in doing a job of getting information for us and trying to look at what's best for the city. So at this time, I will ask for a report from our chair of our Business Development Committee.
Yes, the Business Development Committee met on January the 18th, and we received some very helpful information, updates on, and you'll hear, this was an ongoing updates that we get on where we are with regard to the third penny sales tax, the capital road tax rather, the third penny capital road projects. There's tremendous progress being made. We got update from Mr. Hemingway and Mr. Moore on that, as well as on the infrastructure with regard to the water and sewer projects that are going on. And it's overwhelming at times when you see so much happening, and I know getting these projects completed is a Herculean task. And so on behalf of our committee, I just wanted to say to staff, thank you so much. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your persistence. Thank you for bringing to us the information which we get on a monthly basis in very great detail. But I'm not sure the public at large knows how much effort goes into just getting one of these projects done, getting it out to bid, working with the contractors, getting all of that done. Y'all do a great job, and if you all, the rest of the council, don't mind joining with me, let's give a round of applause to our staff. Thank you all, and all the departments, for all that you do. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. The other part of what we received was updates on corridors, which I think is an ongoing effort. We're looking at the corridors, and hopefully when we have more information in specific that we can bring to council in form of a corridor study that we can look at, we'll be bringing that to council. I don't know if other council members, committee members, do y'all have anything more you want to add? I think that's all we have on behalf of the Business Development Committee. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. And at this time, we proceed with a report from our Community Development Committee Chair.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We met last month and we discussed during the Christmas holiday, we put out, I put out a wish list of Florence, and on social media it got a lot of traction, and so the Florence Morning News picked it up and actually put it out there, a wish list. And so we documented what the citizens' response was, and we are going line by line. A lot of things that were listed we already have in motion. They just don't know, and so we it goes to the marketing committee what they are trying to do and getting the information out to inform our citizens of what we are already doing. But we are going line by line, and we want the citizens to know that we do hear you. This committee, when I first, Councilman McCall and I first got on, we did a listening tour. We took the citizens of each community around and did a listening tour. So this is piggybacking on that. We are now coming up to the end of our times for this term, and we wanted to do a listening tour again. And this way we are doing a listening tour through social media. So we thank you for all of your responses, and just know that we are definitely working on it. We also met with our attorney, Ben Ziegler, who has several different hats, and he serves with a what is it called, Ben? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Yes, and so we would like to, not going into depth of what it is, we want to preserve some of our history. And so we talked about ways that we can preserve our history in our communities, allowing us to see some of the great work that those who've come before us have done. And that's still in the works, and we're just talking about it, but that's something that I wanted to report. And then the Ann Brown came and reported all that the city staff is working on for the communities. And we are so proud at all of the homes that were demolished and all of the efforts in our communities that are going forth. We are doing some great things, and we're really, really proud of our efforts. Am I leaving anything out? Councilwoman Neesmith and Shaquez McCall serves on this committee with me. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's
You're
it.
welcome. And at this time, we recognize the Chair of the Marketing and Public Relationship Committee. And thank you, Chairwoman, for that.
All right. So, as chair of the Marketing and Public Relations Committee, we met last month. We talked about the progress of our app, which is coming along. We're making some great strides with our app and hope to have it out soon. We are doing a lot of engaging and educating through our Facebook page. So I encourage everybody to please go to our Facebook page. We have our marketing people doing an excellent job keeping our Facebook page and doing a lot of the campaigns for the community. Did you know? I've been sharing that, and I'm gonna ask all of our city council people to please share those as well. It kind of educates our community of what's going on. We also have the Black History coming up as well through the city. They've been really putting a lot of Black History facts, little known facts out. So I'm proud of that. I hate that a lot of my leadership class people were in here, but they left. And I think that's it. We got an app coming up. Did you know our campaigns? Facebook. So please log on to the City of Florence website. Make sure you like and share our Facebook page as well to stay updated to the most information. All right?
All right,
That's it.
Thank you for that report, Chair. At this time, we will have a report from the Chair of our Finance and Audit and Budget Committee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We met in January on the 17th. That was our last meeting, for which myself, Councilman Braddock, and Councilman Smith were the members of that committee, and we spoke with Tim Wilson, who is the athletic director for the city, came and gave us a presentation about sports tourism, and that was expanded upon at our retreat in Myrtle Beach. But essentially, he spoke about the increase of sports tourism in the city of Florence and how it has grown tremendously since its inception. And he also offered a few other ways of which we can increase such, including I will probably hold off on the projects that he mentioned, because I know that it's in the works with staff now. But he gave us a full presentation on it, and it was presented at the retreat. And again, I started to talk about it with the tennis center people, but I said I wasn't going to talk much today so we can get out of here. But lastly, doing that, we spoke about the CARES program, which has been getting a lot of traction. In that, Councilman Braddock did have some concerns about the CARES program since initially supporting it. And from that discussion, there was a vote to bring it back to council. However, it was not adopted. Does that kind of summarize the statements? Okay. So from that, we met again on the sports tourism and on the CARES program, and that's my presentation for today.
Thank you to
Briefly.
thank you to each of the chairs for their report, and on behalf with our community development chair and also for our marketing and public relationship chair, I do want to recognize that in their reports, there was one thing they did not report was the fact that we all attended the Municipal Association Legislative Day in Columbia, and both Councilwoman from our community development, Councilwoman Barnes, from our marketing, Councilwoman Neesmith Jackson, both graduated from our leadership institution. I'm going to say they stand. Let's give them a round of applause for making that deliberate effort. And I would like to thank them especially for attending, because there's only like a handful, maybe 7 or 8 cities who have 100% graduation rate among them. So thank y'all both for making that effort to help continue to move Florence on that radar.
No pressure.
No pressure, no pressure.
I'm more than halfway there, Madam Mayor. I'm working.
All right. Well, I want to recognize them because they crossed that finish line, and that's great, and that showed a part of their commitment to working to move the city forward. So thank y'all, and congratulations to both of you, and to all those who are in the process of doing that. Thank you for putting forth the effort to do that as well. I got you, Councilman. So with all reports being complete at this time, we do have executive sessions items, and as you know, that those items will be for discussion of a matter related to an economic development project number 30-4-70A5. Then item B, a discussion of the matters related to economic development project 30-4-70A5. Then C, a personnel matter, which would be 30-4-70A1. And you've heard that executive session items. Do we have a motion to go into executive?
Second it.
We have a motion in a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. We can go into executive session. Council, please take a 5